Welcome to this in depth lesson on the concept of the state, a fundamental political entity that permeates every aspect of our collective existence. Today, we'll explore its definitions, its constituent elements, its fascinating historical evolution, and the various forms of government that characterize it. Our program will be structured to provide you with a clear and analytical understanding, useful for both academic preparation and a more informed participation in civic life. We will address complex concepts with a didactic approach, aiming to stimulate your critical reflection. We begin our study by defining the state as the political organization that holds a legitimate monopoly on force over a given territory and its people. It is the supreme institution that regulates social coexistence, ensuring order and justice. This complex entity is not an abstraction, but is embodied through the simultaneous and interconnected presence of three essential constituent elements. These pillars are the people, the territory, and sovereignty, each indispensable to its existence and functionality. The first fundamental element is the people, which should not be confused with the population or the nation. The people represents the totality of citizens, that is, individuals bound to the state by a specific legal bond. This legal bond is manifested through citizenship, which confers upon individuals a set of rights and duties. They participate in political and social life, contributing to the formation of the state's will. Citizenship is not merely a formal membership but implies an active and reciprocal relationship between the individual and the state system. It is the basis for the exercise of civil, political, and social rights and for the fulfillment of obligations to the community. The second essential element is territory, which defines the physical space within which the state exercises its authority. Without a defined boundary, the exercise of state power would lack a concrete and recognizable basis. This space is not limited to the mainland but also includes internal waters such as rivers and lakes and a portion of the territorial sea. It also includes the airspace above and the subsoil, extending even to diplomatic missions abroad. Territory is the spatial scope within which the laws of the state apply, and its exclusive jurisdiction is manifest. It is the place where the people live and where state sovereignty is concretely expressed, ensuring order and security. The third and perhaps most distinctive element is sovereignty, which represents the supreme power of the state. It is the ability to impose one's will within its territory without being subject to external interference. Sovereignty manifests itself on two distinct levels, internal and external. Internally, the state holds a monopoly on legitimate force, ensuring the enforcement of laws and the resolution of conflicts. Externally, sovereignty implies the state's ability to act autonomously in international relations. This means it can enter into treaties, declare war or peace, and participate in international organizations without depending on other entities. Sovereignty is the principle that ensures the independence and autonomy of a state, both with respect to its own citizens and to other nations. It guarantees its full legal personality on the international stage. The analysis of state forms reveals a dynamic historical process characterized by profound social, economic, and political transformations. This evolution is not linear, but reflects the responses of legal systems to the needs of different eras. This path has led us from the absolute state, typical of the modern age, to the contemporary democratic and social state. Each form represented an attempt to organize power and society in a manner consistent with the dominant values of the time. The absolute state, which emerged between the 16th and 18th centuries, was characterized by an almost total concentration of power in the hands of a single sovereign. The monarch was considered legibus solutus, meaning free from the laws, and his will was law. In this form of government, the sovereign exercised unlimited control over all aspects of the lives of his subjects. There was no clear separation of powers, and individual rights were granted by the monarch, not innate prerogatives. Administration, justice, and the military were directly dependent on the crown. Society was rigidly hierarchical, with the sovereign at the top and subjects lacking real political participation or guarantees against arbitrary rule. The transition from the absolutist state to the liberal state was a revolutionary process, influenced by the Enlightenment and the great revolutions of the 18th century. The goal was to limit state power and protect individual freedom. The liberal state is characterized by the separation of powers theorized by Montesquieu, which divides legislative, executive, and judicial functions between distinct bodies. This mechanism aimed to prevent tyranny and ensure balance. Another fundamental pillar is the protection of individual rights, considered natural and inalienable. The Constitution becomes the instrument for recognizing and protecting these freedoms, such as property, freedom of expression, and freedom of association. In this form of government, we also witness the first, albeit limited, participation of citizens in political life through census based suffrage. The idea was that only those with a certain income or property had the interest and ability to vote. The democratic or social state represents the most recent and complex evolution of the liberal state, which began in the 20th century. It significantly expands the scope of state rights and interventions. This form of state not only guarantees negative liberties, that is, the absence of state impediments, but actively promotes substantive equality among citizens. This means removing the economic and social obstacles that limit freedom. To achieve this goal, the democratic welfare state intervenes in key sectors such as education, healthcare, social security, and employment. The goal is to ensure a minimum level of well being and reduce social and economic inequalities. Political participation extends to all citizens through universal suffrage, recognizing the right to vote for every adult. Sovereignty belongs to the people who exercise it in the forms and within the limits of the Constitution. After examining the forms of state, it is essential to distinguish the forms of government, which define how power is organized and distributed within the state. These concern the relationships between the supreme constitutional bodies. Forms of government are mechanisms through which political will is realized and state functions are exercised. The choice of one form of government over another depends on historical and cultural factors and the specific needs of a nation. The parliamentary form adopted by many countries, including Italy, is characterized by a relationship of trust between the government and parliament. This bond is the cornerstone of the system and determines its stability. The government must win parliament's confidence to take office and remain in office. If parliament withholds its confidence, the government is forced to resign, triggering a political crisis. Parliament, directly elected by the citizens, exercises legislative power and is responsible for overseeing the government's actions. This oversight is expressed through motions of no confidence, questions, and interpellations. The head of state, who may be a president or a monarch, serves as the guarantor and representative of national unity. He or she does not actively participate in political direction, which is the responsibility of the government and parliament. The presidential form of government, of which the United States is the best known example, is characterized by the clear separation between executive and legislative power. The president is the central figure in this system. The president is directly elected by the citizens, giving him strong popular legitimacy independent of parliament. He is both head of state and head of government, combining both functions. Unlike the parliamentary system, the president does not require parliament's confidence to govern. He cannot be ousted by parliament except in exceptional cases and through complex procedures such as impeachment. Parliament or Congress holds legislative power and has the ability to balance the presidential power. However, it cannot overthrow the government and the president cannot dissolve parliament, creating a system of checks and balances. The semi-presidential form, like that adopted in France, combines elements of the parliamentary and presidential forms. It seeks to balance the stability of the executive with the representativeness of parliament. In this system, the president is directly elected by the citizens, as in the presidential system, and holds significant powers. However, he shares executive power with the prime minister. The prime minister is appointed by the president but is accountable to parliament. This means he or she must earn and maintain parliamentary confidence, introducing a characteristic element of the parliamentary system. This duality can lead to situations of cohabitation when the president and the parliamentary majority belong to different political factions. In such cases, executive power is effectively shared and balanced between the two figures. The semi-presidential form aims to ensure greater governmental stability than pure parliamentarism, thanks to the president's strong legitimacy. At the same time, it maintains parliamentary control over the government's actions. We have thus explored the foundations of the state, its evolution, and the various governance structures. I hope this analysis has provided you with valuable tools to better understand the political and institutional dynamics that surround us.